The Italian Riviera, one of the most beautiful places in Europe. Playground to the rich and famous, and home to one of the most unique gardens in the world. Here they grow such things as lavender, tomatoes, aloe vera, strawberries, and of course, basil, the foundation of one of Italy's greatest inventions, pesto. To visit most farms, you'll want to put on boots and blue jeans. At this one, you have to put on scuba gear. My kind of farm. It's in the Ligurian Sea, offshore from Noli, Italy. The project was conceived by Italian businessman Sergio Gamberini, owner of Ocean Reef Group. His son, Luca, along with project manager Gianni Fontanesi, now head up the project. It's called Nemo's Garden, but the name doesn't come from the famous animated lost clownfish. This place is straight up Jules Verne. Our gateway to Liguria is the ancient city of Genoa. Regal mountains give way to the sea as we make our final approach to Christopher Columbus Airport. Below us, a sprawling seaport, the largest in Italy and one of the oldest in all of Europe. Vast container docks indicate its history as a major maritime center. A system of bridges and tunnels makes for easy driving on immaculate roadways. We take the E80 south, then the SS1 to the medieval town of Noli. For 600 years, ending in 1797, this was the capital of the Savona province on the western side of the Ligurian Sea. Noli has given rise to loads of interesting buildings over the centuries, like the famous towers. There used to be 72 of them. Now, only 4 remain. Over time, the others came down, mostly for repurposing of the building materials. In a referendum ages ago, a single vote saved Il Torre di Quattro Canti, or the Tower of Four Corners, from suffering the same fate. To call these photogenic would be an obvious understatement. It's almost impossible to take a photograph in this town without having at least one of them in it. The same is true of Castello de Monte Ursino and the wall that watch over the city. This monument to the concept of good fences make good neighbors actually comprises 3 walls, built between the 12th and 17th centuries to protect the city from Saracens, Spaniards, pirates, Napoleon, the usual suspects. Fishing has been a mainstay here for at least 3,000 years. Today it is one of the few remaining places in the region where fishermen still go out every night to bring home the bacon. Well, fish. During the day, their boats become gathering places for swimmers and sunbathers. Tourism is a dominant industry for every community along this part of the Italian coast. We were lucky enough to be here toward the end of season, and even then, parking places were scarce on weekends. This is a fun place to explore. Since Italy is predominantly Catholic, there is no shortage of churches, and sanctuaries like this one are popular camera bait. Alleyways reveal many architectural styles from days gone by. The archways and cobbled sidewalks transport the visitor to another time. A promenade separates the town from the shoreline. This is one of but a few places on the Riviera where the beach, promenade, and city center are so close together. We choose from several options for lunch, and a cappuccino doppio gives us the will to carry on. The pebbled beaches are lined with bagni, the bathhouses, where a few euro will rent a small changing room, chaise lounge, and an umbrella. One of these, Bagni Letizia, is base of operations for Nemo's Garden. We take a short stroll down the beach to the dive shop to rent some tanks. Since Nemo's Garden is open to the public, Dive and Joy, the local dive shop, has pretty much become its point of entry for divers from all over the world. The garden is just offshore and comprises a half-dozen domed structures that they call biospheres, in depths ranging from 3 to 12 meters. The metal sculpture in the center of the complex is called the Tree of Life. The original art was commissioned for the Italian pavilion at the 2015 Milano Expo. It was recreated here by permission of designer Marco Balic. To quote a report published by the Nemo team, Underwater greenhouses offer near-perfect growing conditions thanks to the steady temperatures and high amounts of carbon dioxide inside the biospheres that create a microclimatic buffering effect. In addition to the advantages offered by the stable thermal conditions, plants are also protected from harmful external elements, such as insects and parasites. Crop yields also benefit from the microclimate inside the biospheres, as the humidity and exceptionally high carbon dioxide concentrations, which aid photosynthesis, cause plants to grow significantly faster than they do on land. The biospheres are harnessed to the seafloor by a system of chains, cables, ropes, and sand screws. The engineering and construction of the garden complex make this a masterpiece worthy of Da Vinci himself. We'll talk more later about just how well constructed they are. The shallow depths and proximity to the shore allow swimmers and snorkelers to see the domes from above. In addition to being an important scientific experiment, it has also become a popular tourist attraction. Through a tech box inside each dome, the garden complex is monitored by sensors and Wi-Fi. A cluster of cables transports data to the shore, where it is collected in the command center. There's even a video feed to the cafe at Bagni Letizia. Luca shows us the control center and explains the various functions and technical capabilities.
Now the biospheres have quite some technology inside. They have a tech box, that's how we call it. The box that you could see in each biosphere, different editions, so some were white, some were black, and you cannot see them unfortunately on these cameras. But what they do is they have a Wi-Fi connection, they have sensoring systems for oxygen levels, CO2 level, for humidity, internal temperature, external temperature, voltage. They have a lot of different purposes.
Much of the diving in the Mediterranean involves seamounts with their canyons and overhangs. With that in mind, and Ricardo Gambacorta at the helm, we head offshore to dive some of them. We are welcomed by glimmering schools of two-banded sea bream and other fish as we patrol the rocky seascape. A photographer finds a critter under an outcropping. It's a conger eel, waiting for the caterer. The site is alive with all sorts of creatures, like this little eel. Painted combers, and a striped blenny, perched atop what looks like a big fur ball. Seagrasses are home to sea stars and other animals. A hermit crab has lunch under a natural canopy. We play a game of Where's Waldo with a red scorpionfish in the lead role, and an opisthobrink adorns a branch of coral. When an eel passes by, he's a long, slimy guy that's... wait for it. Amore. Thank you. I'll be here all night. We obey the 3 meters for 3 minutes rule for safety and call it a dive. While Noli is where most of the filming is going on, our production base camp is in Quigliano, about 20 minutes away. This is a quaint little town full of convivial people and plenty of beautiful sights. As usual, the town's focal point is the church. We are staying virtually in its shadow at a bed and breakfast called Il Respiro del Tempo, or the Breath of Time. The inn's decor is delightfully old school, appointed in antiques, and frescoed vaults on the 12-foot ceilings. Look up and you feel like you're in a cathedral. Look down, you're in your bedroom. Just below us is the coolest coffee shop in town, and no, this didn't happen by accident. This is the social epicenter in Quigliano. In the open-air seating across the street, the wall next to us is festooned with murals by local artists, including school children. We make a meal of salami, breads, cheeses, olives, and anchovies, and chase it with an espresso. Adequately fortified, we set out to explore the town with our hostess, Irma. Our first stop is a small winery just up the hill. The vintner, Signor Graziano, is an old friend of Irma's, and he is justifiably proud of the small vineyard and his award-winning product.
This is my vigneto. Mio vigneto, my vigneto. Bravo, bravo.
We take in the intoxicating aroma and the bubbling sounds from the fermenting grapes. He is something of a wine historian. He shows us his cellar. It was a good year. And some of the apparatus that helps turn grapes into wine.
No, aspetta.
Not far away, he shows us an old water-driven mill. Although no longer in use, the water wheel is still intact. Signor Graziano also holds the distinction of owning the town's only ostrich. Go figure. This historic town has no shortage of fascinating old buildings. This villa, built in the 1800s with its antique timbers and furnishings, has a marble kitchen sink. Scanning the ivied walls outside, we discovered that even the utility trough is made of sculpted marble. I know that every time I go somewhere I say that I could totally live here, but this time, I really mean it. The centuries pile up on each other, and old world merges with new. Ancient walls and gateways one minute, rows of recycling bins the next. The town is dripping with Mediterranean charm. And I don't know why, but I am a sucker for shadows, tile rooftops, and laundry wafting in the breeze. Back in Noli the next morning, we assemble in front of the dive shop for Marco's briefing for the first dive of the day. The town's borders are defined by Capo Noli on the west and Bergeggi Island to the east. Fabio Mazza takes the wheel, and we motor from the former to the latter for another great dive. Capped by a coast-watching tower built in the 4th century, the island is only 250 feet from the shore. Bergeggi is a popular place for scuba diving and other aquatic pursuits. It's also a marine protected area. Good news for the sea life here. We see the potential as soon as we roll in. There were dusky groupers, large and small. Even a fake one. Goatfish are clear for takeoff. Snappers scour the seabed. And sea breams lollygag around the cup corals. Flickering blue chromies lead us to an eel in a crevice. Turns out that there was another one behind it. We couldn't tell if this was a romantic interlude or just a session with a cleaner shrimp. Could have been both. At last, the big day has come, the harvest. We are joined by journalists from Germany and France. Together, we cover the action as Gianni and Luca submerge to begin the process. Gianni unties the protective barrier from below the first biosphere, and we follow him in. This is the first time that our cameras have been allowed inside the structures. The first thing he does is take a big sniff of the air inside the dome. Turns out this was a really good idea. I sincerely wish that we had smell-o-vision because the blended fragrance of the basil, lavender, and other herbs and vegetables is absolutely intoxicating. One of the many things that the team intends to accomplish is to make the biospheres self-sustaining, and that includes apparatus for the domes to be able to irrigate the crops inside. Gianni explains that the differences between temperatures and conditions inside and outside the domes create a considerable amount of condensation. This is, of course, fresh water, and there's an almost inexhaustible supply. Luca joins Gianni to help with the harvest, but first, they conduct a live broadcast over Facebook for their many fans.
With the moment like last time, but that was me. Some exciting news.
They meticulously select plant specimens, double bag them, and send them to a kayak waiting at the surface. This evening, Gianni will transport them to a laboratory in Pisa for analysis. Back at their base camp at Bagni Letizia, Gianni explains what will happen next.
We need to scale this project up if we want to have it like a proper underwater greenhouses. So we want to have more production, we would like to have more auto-sustainability of the system, so we are working towards that direction. But on the other hand, it's a new underwater observatory, so the feeling, you try, the feeling of getting inside a bubble with all the fish outside looking at you is like being inside of a reverse aquarium.
Right.
A kind of weird feeling at the beginning. It's like, where am I? So I see plants, I see the sun, and there's a fish behind the plant, so it's like it's a little bit weird, I would say. But
I loved it though. I thought it was great.
it's a good thing for the I would say the local community and the local economy. It's a new touristic attraction. Of course, we are giving the chance to everybody to visit without paying an entrance fee, but all the diving center around the area are offering something new to the customers. And if you want to visit the garden, of course, you can choose to go with the diving center or by yourself. You just need to respect a couple of rules, of course, for safety reasons. And it could be an underwater laboratory with a double pressure environment. It's the first and only laboratory underwater with double pressure environment in the world. We are powering the entire habitat with green energy, so we have solar panels, wind wheel on top of the control tower, and the reason is we would like to better understand the right amount of power that we need to in order to power up all the technology underwater, and then see if it's replicable also in all those areas really far away from civilization. So maybe we just don't need to stay close to the city, but we have a lot of coastline with no cities, no villages, and we can just utilize, renewable energies or just say green energies. It's crazy.
And now, Luca Gamberini.
The technology behind it, the scientific behind it, the concept behind what we could achieve in growing plants underwater amazed me. I've always had a thing for sustainability and of course preservation of the ocean, and this is really a calling, I think, and it's great to be underwater doing this. Our agriculture in Nemo's garden is sustainable because we don't need anything, we don't need to burn fossil fuel or any other means of technology to maintain a stable temperature. Most of the season, and in a huge chunk of the world, waters do not change temperature so drastically like the air. It's just physics. The heat capacity of air is a lot milder. Actually, it's none compared to water. That's why right now we can have, I don't know, maybe 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and tonight we will have 65 or 70. It's not going to happen in the water. It's a lot more stable, and it stays that way. So why not use it for the plants? Plants need stable temperature anyway. Also, we have created small micro environments. We call them biospheres because they eventually are the Earth, but in a very diminished, smaller scale. We have a surface of water which is enclosed in these biospheres, and it's salt water. It evaporates, loses its content in salt and minerals as it evaporates, and when it condenses because of the different temperature from inside to outside upon the dome, it becomes again fresh water. And that fresh water can easily be used for the plants. We can start from islands. Think about Maldives. It's a place where they are importing everything. Every day they import everything because they have absolutely nothing. And the blessing for them is the new technologies like hydroponics. Now you can do the same, but you can also use that amazing lagoons inside the coral reefs that they have and being sustainable, which is also another issue in Southeast Asia, and a lot of these places have a big issue with being sustainable as well. It's normal. It's just developing economies, and that's normal. But if we can offer that technology, I think it solves many issues at the same time.
The night after the harvest, I made a solo dive on the site. Through an application on his mobile phone, Gianni was kind enough to turn on the underwater lights for me. Other creatures came out to enjoy the display, and it was transcendent. As I traversed the complex for the next 90 minutes, I kept expecting to see Captain Nemo and his helmeted crew emerge from the darkness. Other times it was like being part of an intergalactic mission to explore the universe for strange new worlds and new civilizations. Of course, neither Captain Nemo nor Kirk ever materialized, but I did consider this little fellow a more than adequate consolation prize. In Seahorse World, it's the male that carries the babies, as this one's doing. He nonchalantly swayed on his rope in the gentle current and allowed me to experiment with lighting and get very close for about half the dive. He spent so much time in front of the camera that I'm pretty sure he qualifies for a SAG card now. Normally, this is the part where I would roll closing credits and call it a film. But remember in the first reel when I told you that we would talk later about the construction of the biosphere complex? Well, unfortunately, Mother Nature has a nasty way of throwing the occasional curveball. On October 30, about a month and a half after we were there, a violent storm laid siege to Liguria, and considerable damage was sustained above and below the waterline. On shore, the surge laid waste to boats and most of the businesses on the beachfront. Bagni Letizia was not spared. Nor was Nemo's garden. When they saw the devastation on land, the team feared the worst for the undersea component. And this is the bit that would make old Leonardo proud. 2 weeks have passed since the storm, and here we are in Las Vegas at DEMA, the Diving Equipment and Marketing Association trade show. Luca Gamberini gets us up to speed.
The project is safe. I'm very happy, and actually I'm pretty proud to say that the engineering was amazing. We have footage of our project coordinator Gianni and Gabriele going underwater 3 days later. We had to wait 3 days to avoid possible injuries due to debris in the water, and still the visibility was very scarce. And we have footage of them approaching the location of the biospheres, and they thought nothing was going to be there. Simply everything was going to be destroyed, and just cheering the hell out of themselves, saying, "Hey, they literally say they're alive. The biospheres are there, not damaged." The equipment inside, of course, suffered a big hit. The cabling system were all basically messed up, but it's nice not to be in the position where we need to start from zero again. Actually, we have a pretty good start, and this is going to teach us a lot on how to make a better structure and make it so that we can withstand even an exceptional event as the one we had.
The power of the storm was so huge and basically destroyed everything. All the facilities on the coastline, ports, houses, activities, businesses went completely destroyed, gone. So imagine, like, our project, like, underwater. Immediately we realized that everything could potentially be lost, but after a couple of days we decided to go diving, and we discovered that actually the biospheres were still there. At the beginning we couldn't see the biospheres, but then when we almost hit the first biosphere, we were like, oh my God, it's still there, it's still floating, and you know, like it was incredible, like undescribable. The biosphere was still in place. Unfortunately, the water level was over, like almost to the top of the biosphere. So plants, equipment, electronics, cabling system, gone. So huge damages, but you know, we are not scared. We are not like, I feel like nothing can really stop us. So it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be tough. We're talking about like months and months of extra work, and we're talking about like huge investment that we need to, you know, we need to do in the next months. But I'm sure that we will become stronger than that we were.
We saved some plants, which is great. We saved a lot of equipment. We definitely saved the biospheres, and that's great. It will just have to roll up our sleeves and keep working.
Lo spettacolo deve continuare. The show must go on. We plan to return to Nemo's garden someday to see how the experiment is progressing. In the meantime, sono Paul Cater-Deaton. Ci vediamo sotto le vole. I'm Paul Cater-Deaton, and I'll see you under the bubbles.